current state of the art for distributed genealogy and history sharing. And the goal, just to repeat, is to make it as easy as possible to share private data sets and link between them. We want to focus on the formats and the protocols inside the files and try and be agnostic when it comes to, say, the delivery and sharing mechanism and even the platforms that this is running on. So let's start the application and start with a simple use case where somebody might be running the application and importing from data that's already existing. So if we go here to the genealogy page, you see there aren't any right now. If we want to drag in a sample, such as from the tests, let me go to genealogy and right here, pull in this JSON file, then you can see it recognizes some elements in the file, and it recognizes that there are a couple of links to other data sets. This one's to the API. This one is to the public web page for a person to see the information, not so much for machine readable information. So at this point I'm going to save this into my settings so it's remembered for the future. So if I go out and back in, then we can see this on here constantly. If I wanted to jump to the public data set, that's where this API link comes in. Looks like I have to set my family search session ID link, so let's authenticate that first. Copy the link, paste it in here. And then if I go back, now it remembers my API key, of course, and it can walk through my tree and see more images and people in my past, and I can even focus on a different person in that genealogy if I want to. See their children. And it just remembers, hey, these are somebody who is also in my private data. So right there, that link is going to take me back to my private data set. So that's the genealogy linking back and forth. Now we can show in our histories, let's say we've got this as a, actually I'm going to not choose that one, but I'm going to choose this whole folder so that it sees all of the items in here. If I look in the Beverly Hillbillies, it's going to show me this HTML file, and I can show you the HTML contents of that in here, right there. That's just basically this text, and it's not formatted at all. However, it does have some semantic links inside it, and so you'll see that Jed here is underlined, and it has a couple of links. This public one, I'm sorry, this is the private one, back to my data set. This is a public one if I want to open up a public window to see that website about him. But if I want to go and jump to this internal genealogy view, I can see that this person is in one of my sample files. So you can see how it's linked to other people in my dataset. So the other fun thing about the histories is I can do a search for things like, say, gold, and the asterisks here show, oh, there's somebody who has something in their history. So if I look for that, I can see it here, and I can start looking through and finding out how the people in the story are related to myself. So with that, that's some sample data we have. Let's take a look at what happens when we see a richer set of data. So if I go into here and load the latest, you'll see what I have privately and what I have shared. So now if we go to the histories, we see a lot more. I'm going to expand this one and show that this particular person is marked up much the same way. And this file was not created by me, but it's easy to see how someone can start with just a basic file, and then when they add simple links around it, just like an indexing kind of activity, we can make this a lot more user-friendly than adding these manually in a text file. But you can see after I log in, it'll show me more information, and of course there's other ones like the Tolman family genealogy that we can browse through with this person. And if I want to look at this file, I can drag it and see what the text looks like, so that I can then edit and start adding more people. Like if I want to start putting tags around here, it's pretty easy to do. So the good thing about this is that, at least on this platform, this is written in Electron, and it's importing this straight HTML file and wrapping it with search. Now, if we want to look publicly, we can see that there's a public website that's serving up this HTML file. And now I can activate a JavaScript script on top of this file that does the exact same thing. And it detects the semantics, and you can jump to family search or Tolman family and browse it much the same way. So again, it's emphasizing adding semantics into these files over time, starting simply, but making it more and more useful. And then, if you run local data, you can even link it to yourself. So I've taken this, and I've got examples in here where I have some histories from my mom, and I'm not going to show you inside those because those are private. She's shared those with just us kids. So now I'm going to go and, instead of my own settings, I'm just going to go and make some of these test settings that are kind of built into the app that we can use for testing. And you can see in the histories where we've got, here's the hillbillies right here. And if I take off these semantics, then you can see that, okay, now it's only got one internal link. It's just pretty easy to see right away. Oh, I remembered my gold. Pretty easy to see right away how it just detects those changes. Okay, so from there, I did want to show you how to clean up all the data inside the Distrinet. If you wanted to erase everything, then you can just drag this into a text editor, just wipe it all out, and then if you reload the application or just totally stop it and restart it, then that clears it out. There's one more setting which is under here that you have to do to clear the cache, because it's caching all of the IDs for a particular person that may be duplicated in different data sets, so that you can see when there's multiple copies around that you might want to jump back and forth to. So if you're on a public data set, such as Family Search, it'll remember that, oh, I have a local copy of that as well. So these are synced currently I've got Dropbox and Google Drive that I'm sharing with family members, and again, that's to say it's sync method agnostic. Next steps are to detect conflicts and see at least if there's changes, see a little bit of a history in those files. Some of these will actually be checked into Git, which offers even more functionality, but again, that's the file system representation, and the rest of the functionality should work not knowing about those. We can have a history of just maybe one copy in the history, which is what I'll maintain in this application. Just wanted to emphasize there's those independent pieces, the bookmarklet, which runs inside the app and outside the app, and raw HTML and open standards are what we want to build on to make sure that it is platform agnostic. We're focusing on the data and the data formats. So some other next steps is to be able to drag a Roots Magic folder, actually a file, and parsing that SQL is pretty straightforward, and so we can show the genealogy from a Roots Magic file. This is meant to be read-only. I would never see it as taking over a lot of the edit functionality for these programs, but for basic browsing between histories and files, it can be very, very useful just for the read-only part. Let's add other files, markdown, text. It can search through those files for any words that you want to look for, and you can link them into your genealogies. When I showed this to my sister, she said, well, it'd be nice to build in the synchronization inside the app, and that's, there's apps out there like SyncThing that I use with some of these files for my different machines. There's complications when you want to add that into the app of the transport layer, and it's sometimes Dropbox is much more familiar and even does a better job than we could ever code in here. So I could see doing that for advanced cases. There's other great technologies like the Beaker browser and the hyperdrives that it has that may be even better for showing in a browser. And then the Solid project, which is, of course, Tim Berners-Lee's semantic web initiative to have everything backed by JSON that's held privately. But again, that's a particular data format that forces you to JSON. It is not as useful when you've already got a whole bunch of text files that you've been maintaining, or journals, and other formats. You don't want to force everything into that format. At least I don't. So that's the program. Thank you.